Hi, this is George with the Crotchety Old Man podcast. Hopefully, you've enjoyed listening to the Crotchety Old Man as much as we've enjoyed making each episode. If so, send us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you at the Crotchety Old Man podcast at gmail.com. Let us know what you enjoy about the show, what you'd like to hear more of. We'd love to receive your feedback. Remember, that's the Crotchety Old Man podcast at gmail.com. And as we always say, if you didn't know, now you know. Peace.
Hello, good day, good afternoon, good night. Hey, no matter what hemisphere you're in right now, welcome to another episode of the Crotchety Old Men podcast. I am Gary Smith, one of the co-hosts. With me in the studio today is all three of my comrades. I say three because I have to include myself, right? PC, what's going on? Top of the
What's
day.
up, baby?
Hey, man, you know how good it is.
Yes, sir. I'm in the hemisphere. I'm not in the hemisphere, and the hemisphere is a beautiful thing. The sun is out, it's brightly shining, and all is well in the world.
Amen to that. George Cromley over there to my right. What up, George?
Smitty, everything's great, man. I'm not sure where you guys are, but I guess wherever it is, it's awful good. So, hey, I'm going to join you on this podcast. We're going to have some fun. So here again, we've got a returning guest, Mr. Oscar Sistrunk. As you remember, we had Oscar on previously. He's a professor over at Morehouse University. And I thought it was a good time to have Oscar back on because he's often talked about the Morehouse Institute. And I know this is a thing they've had going on for a while, but on Thursday of this week, they're kicking off a new session for the public. And we thought it would be a perfect opportunity to get Oscar to come on and talk about a little bit about the Institute and talk about what's going on Thursday. Welcome to the show, Oscar. How are we doing today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me back. I really appreciate it. Working hard, hardly working, one of those two or in between. I don't know, but I'm just enjoying life. It's a little cool out here. Reminds me of growing up in New Jersey, even though I'm here in Atlanta. So I don't mind a little cool, just not cold and snow. That's all.
Look, we don't allow any swearing on this podcast, man. So that four-letter word SNOW, don't use that word.
You ain't lying. Every time I think of that, my back starts hurting because I remember my dad had me out there shoveling that snow. I don't miss it one bit. You're right about that.
Take it away, Oscar. Tell us something about this.
Good. Yeah, well, as you know, we started up this Morehouse Real Estate Institute. And it's been going like gangbusters here for this basically first full year. Got a lot of community support, a lot of corporate support, a lot of alumni support, and the students are really excited about it. It seems as though students are really interested in this real estate stuff. So this Thursday, we have a forum over at the Ray Charles Center from 4 to 6 o'clock, and we're having the national president of the Appraisal Foundation coming by to talk to really the nation, but especially Morehouse and the community about the appraisal industry. And really, really excited about it. I'd love to talk about it today in terms of what's going on, what we're doing.
Excellent. I mean, that's so important, not only in our community, but across in the real estate industry, period. The appraisal industry and how appraisals impact valuations and so on and so forth. So, yeah, tell us more about this, Oscar. Tell us about the appraisal piece.
Sure. As you know, I am a commercial appraiser. I'm a member of the Appraisal Institute, so I have my MAI designation. I do a lot of commercial appraisal work. But as you know, especially in our community, there's a big issue about appraisals and valuations. And we can talk about that a little bit. And a little history about the Appraisal Foundation. If you can go back and for those of us who remember the 80s, we had the S&L crisis. And out of the S&L crisis, the federal government came in to control the appraisal industry. Because before that, it was just a good old boy network, and it was just who you knew. So they put in state licensing, And then they started an organization called the Appraisal Foundation, which oversees all public and private appraisal industry. And they created what's called USPAP, which is the kind of document that people use, which formalizes the appraisal process. And
if I could just get you to pause just for a second.
Sure.
Just for our listeners, when you talk about the appraisal process, you don't have to get deep into the woods about it, but Oscar, just kind of give us a little snippet of what does that process look like?
All right. Well, as you know, appraisers, especially, residential and commercial, are a little different. But let's talk about it on the residential side. Most people need to have their house valued so that they can either refinance it, they can, maybe they're buying the house, maybe they're selling the house. That's kind of how most people see appraisers. And most residential appraisers base the value of your house based on what they consider comparable sales. They find recent sales of houses that are supposed to be similar to yours in a similar area and say, all right, if this marketplace of buyers and sellers are currently buying houses similar to yours for X amount of money, then your house is worth X amount of money. They go through that process of valuing the house.
And what are some of the similarities that they consider when they consider comparing one house to the other?
Okay. First of all, let me say one thing. An appraisal is an opinion of value. All right? Remember that. That is a big thing people are going to have to realize. When you look at all the houses in your neighborhood that have sold recently, or all the houses in the area that have sold, right? There's a lot of different variables for all different kind of houses. It's up to that appraiser to use their opinion to pick what they think are the best, the most similar, right? And then they'll make adjustments based on their opinion and, of course, maybe some facts, some data that they have. Like, for example, do you have a finished basement or not? What's the square footage of your house? What kind of condition is it in? And they make those adjustments to come up with what they think. Normally you come up with a range of values, and then they have to pick a particular number.
So now what is the difference between the variables that you use to appraise a house versus the variable you use to appraise commercial property?
With commercial property, the most important aspect is, because remember, with commercial properties, there are not that many similar buildings. So in the you're not going to find it. Don't sell as often, and there are not that many, unlike houses. That's one thing. But the most important part is the income approach that's used to generate the value, to determine the value of a property. In commercial, that's very important, as opposed to residential.
Right. As you mentioned, Oscar, in terms of appraisals being a matter of opinion, you're so spot on with that. Because as it relates to the Black community, we've probably seen it on national news or what have you, there's this thing called whitewashing, in that, a Black homeowner can get a lowball appraisal in a neighborhood, whereas that if they would switch that out and put in a white owner, that appraisal can go up almost 20-30% higher. And so in situations like that, is it possible for a homeowner, if they get an appraisal, in their opinion, is below the value of what they know their property should be worth based upon the information you just shared, is it possible for them to ask for another appraisal? And do appraisers go against each other in terms of evaluating the same property?
Good question.
The last part of that question is yes, they'll go against each other.
Okay.
I always recommend this, similar to what you're talking about, Gary. I tell a lot of my clients, especially if you're going to a lender or you're going somebody and they're going to order an appraisal, there's no reason why you still can't order your own.
There you go. Okay.
That's
That's
what
what
I
I wanted
tell
you
you.
to bring out, Oscar. Say it
And I
again.
guess the best thing to do is order an appraiser of your own of the appraiser that you know, where your opinion is his opinion or her opinion is favorable.
You should always pick, I put it this way, you should always pick your own appraiser who is familiar with your community. That's what it is.
Now, question here now, is it also true, correct me if I'm wrong, that since the lender is the one who's going to be loaning that money, that they're going to fall more toward their appraiser than the homeowners? Is there any truth to that, or is that a myth?
No, the lender, especially FDIC banks, we're touching on something else, but let me finish this statement first. The bank will use their own appraiser. That's who they have to use. You can't bring an appraisal in. That's part of the law that changed from the S&L crisis.
Right.
They have to pick one. Now, here's my question. I run into this all the time. Let's be honest here. First of all, and this happens especially in commercial, but residential too. How do you know the lender really wants to lend to you to begin with?
Exactly.
And if he doesn't, he can't tell you I don't want to lend to you. So what does he do? He calls his appraiser, who's a buddy, and says, do your due. You know, I don't even have to say it. You already know.
So in your opinion, Oscar, and you pointed that out so succinctly. What do we do as a community, as a Black community in particular, to get around these nefarious lending practices that these banks and so forth have?
Couple of ways. And number one, if it's residential, you find a residential appraiser, if you can, who's familiar with your community, and let them they don't have to do a full-blown appraisal. We offer a lot of these where it doesn't have to be full-blown, but I'm going to give you the comps. I'm going to give you the basic information. It's not going to be something that a bank can use, but it's going to be an appraisal you can use against the bank's appraiser.
You know what, Oscar, stop right there, because I can think of a situation specifically where a client of mine here in Detroit, commercial I'm talking about, I got several appraisers in my back pocket. One is African American, and the other one's a Caucasian. The Caucasian appraiser refused to come inside the city limits of Detroit. So as opposed to doing a full-blown appraisal, he did what's known as a desktop appraisal.
Right.
The other gentleman, who was a certified commercial appraiser, the African-American brother, he came into the city, stepped foot on the land, did a complete appraisal, and man, I tell you, they are just as different as night and day.
That's right. That's right.
So based on that example, Gary, which one won out?
Well, I was the lender, so I took the brother.
Okay.
No, let me. You bring up a really good point, Gary. Let me say something here. Let's get into this, okay? Back when I first started becoming an appraiser, commercial appraiser, I couldn't get. This is in the '80s. I couldn't get work from the bank. Mm-hmm. They told me I had to be an MAI appraiser to get commercial work with the bank. I said, okay. So I became the first Black MAI in the Southeastern United States. Got my MAI, went to the bank, and guess what? The bank said, well, we can't give you any work, Mr. Sistrunk, because you don't have enough experience.
Yep.
I said, wait a minute. I said, oh, okay. I got something for you. So you know what I did? I became the anti-bankers commercial appraiser. When someone needed to sue the bank and they needed to go to court and they needed an MAI appraiser, all the other MAI appraisers were in the pocket of the banks. I was the only one who wasn't. So the attorneys would hire me, and me being a college professor, I can do pretty well in front of a jury. I was banging them things out. I was knocking the banks out. And I never, they came back to me, they try and give me work. I said, no, I don't need it. I said, I'm teaching at Morehouse, so I got my benefits in check. I'm going after you guys for the rest of my life because you never gave me a break. You never gave me a chance. Right? So I do that to this day. I'm currently doing 2 gas stations in Albany, Georgia. For a brother who couldn't get the local banks and appraisers to give him the right value or correct value so he can get a loan from the bank. So he got me. I went down to Albany. I'm doing those reports right now and gave him, he's using Carver State Bank, the black bank out of Savannah, and they're going to fund it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we have.
Yeah,
and I've been doing that for 30 years. That's why I do appraisals all over the country. I get them from all over where, especially in the Southeast, that system has been in place where they froze blacks out of commercial and residential development. Mm-hmm. But that non-FDIC money, and then they send me in there because they need an MAI appraiser. And I can do the appraisal, and the banks will lend them the money. We just did 6 months ago a seafood factory in Brunswick, Georgia. This guy was the police chief down there and couldn't get money.
So, because you pause right there for a moment, because I don't want to get too far in the woods in that. But here's what I do want you to speak on: is that the appraisal industry and what opportunities are available now to the young people that's at Morehouse, or I know your program is open to the public. Okay, what type of opportunities exist? Because we need more brothers and sisters in the appraisal business. When I say brothers and sisters, y'all, I'm talking about my Latino brothers and sisters as well. All right. Yeah. So we need more black, brown people in this industry, real estate in particular, but appraisal specifically. Can you speak on that? How does that Morehouse program help get others involved?
Well, that's why Mr. Button is coming to speak on Thursday, because he went up to Congress maybe about a year ago, and a couple of those congressmen handed him his head for that exact reason. And because of that, he, along with everybody else, companies, but especially in the appraisal business, everybody else is really looking for more. They call it, what's it called? DEI, this diversity, and all the, whatever the acronym is they want to use this week. Right. But they are really into trying to get more African Americans in the industry, and they need it. And there are more.
Yeah. We have to be careful with that word of inclusion and diversity, because when I'm talking about pro-black, okay, and I know.
Oh yeah, I got it.
We all know on this. We know there's some trickeration with those acronyms of inclusion, and diversity, and all that nonsense. But But keeping it germane or in your flow. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I was just saying that's one reason why he's coming, and I'm gonna be real here for a minute,
please.
Okay, because I taught in Morehouse long time. I don't mind people coming they like to come to Morehouse and kind of kiss the ring and talk about all this stuff. But I'm telling people right now, I don't play that kind of game, right? What I mean is, yes, he's going to come speak. We're happy to have him speak. We're happy to have some other people that are going to join him to speak and talk about this inclusion and more minorities. But this is, for him to participate, it's got to be long term, right? I have the Appraisal Institute, of which I joined. Remember, I'm the first black back in 92 to join. Here it is 30 years later, and they finally come to me. Think about that now. Here I am. Well, we can't, we have a hard time with HBCUs. I said, well, I've been a member for 30 years. You ever talk about looking me up and give me a call and ask my opinion on what to do? See, in other words, you can say one thing, but act like my mother said, actions speak louder than words. So you can say all that stuff you want to, but I want to see some action. I think the Appraisal Foundation, the Appraisal Institute, I went to their meeting last week. I think I'm seeing some action. I haven't seen that before, but I'm seeing some action. I think I see action for two reasons. One, in the community in general, there are not a lot of young people going into the appraisal field, period. Right? Not just
why is that? Why do you think that is?
Part of it is the technology is different. I mean, young people are able to make their money so many other ways and do so many other things. That's just not something that they're interested in doing. There are so many more options. Because in order to be an appraiser, you've got to work for somebody for small wages. And most young people are saying, well, shoot, I mean, I can do an online business, make all the money I want to. I don't need to be a workhorse for little or nothing for somebody for 3 or 4 years. And the average age of appraisers is over 60 years old now. Something I thought, that's ridiculous. So they're not getting many at all. So I think they are really, the changes I've seen with the Institute and the foundation, I think this time is for real, which is why I decided to allow them to have this forum that they wanted here at Morehouse.
So, what is the foundation doing to procure more people to do this that are outside the university structure?
The foundation basically oversees Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all of the appraisers associated with those organizations. The Appraisal Institute, the American Society of Appraisers, the National Society of Real Estate Appraisers, they all have to report to the Appraisal Foundation. So when the Appraisal Foundation begins to push and require more diversity, basically more black folks, all of them have to listen. And the reason that they're pushing it is because Congress got on them and tell them this is something that you have to do or we're going to make some changes.
Oscar, let me ask you a quick question. So as you're talking, and I'm just thinking right now, is people like yourself, and I look at you as a journeyman appraiser, because I'm thinking now about the automotive industry. And so as a journeyman appraiser, you could bring on other apprentice appraisers. And so, okay, so now they have to work under your tutelage in order to get experience, right? And
Right.
so in order for them to get experience, you have to have work to give them. And
Right.
but here's where I'm going with that. And perhaps there's a foundation, somebody that could fund this, is to offer free appraisals, maybe to a certain block of people in the community, maybe senior citizens, let's take. And this data is easily and readily available. Free appraisals for senior citizens on their properties within a specific community. Allow these apprentice appraisers under your guidance and tutelage to do those appraisals. So they get experience. There's got to be a foundation, somebody out there that will fund this type of program for senior citizens. I'm talking about a niche market, but it's going to help our senior citizens in our black communities not only save their homes, possibly get refinancing to repair their homes and their properties, or at the worst case scenario, I look at the worst case scenario, sell them, okay, and then move into a senior citizen facility. But before we go that far in the woods, is that something that's possible that you guys could do, or that with the help of someone else that we could get this thing done?
Yes, it could be. The issue you have with training appraisers is everything is being digitized.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
Yeah, because of AI. Right. Go ahead.
Yeah. So everything is online and being digitized, AI, all of those things. So what we used to do a long time ago when I was training appraiser, I don't need them for that anymore.
Okay.
That's the problem, right? I don't need any. I don't, yeah, you could have somebody go by, ride around the property and take some pictures, but I can go on Google and get current pictures.
That's true. That's true.
Right? When we talk about, we used to send them down to the courthouse for a day, collecting, looking up their sales and going into the deed books and getting the maps and all that stuff. All that's online now.
But they still need training, though, right? I mean, however,
Exactly. That's the problem. They still need training, but again, I'm using more AI to write my reports. So stuff that
So it sounds like the appraisal business is on its way out. I mean, in terms of numbers, it's like a machine can do it now. You stick in the address, and the AI, the machine does everything because it has that data in there. It has access to CoStars and those like CoStar to give you the last sales and so on and so forth.
Right. And depending on like Georgia or these open record states, all the sales going at least all the way back to the year 2000, if not to the 90s, all that stuff's online. So I can go into the courthouse and pull up everything I need.
So this
deed records, everything.
This brings me to this question, Oscar. Since you've articulated the fact that the appraisal business may be going out due to AI and all these other digital things. What are some of the other um, avenues that your program that you're instituting, besides the appraisals, will offer as a way for us to get around some of these hurdles that we deal with in the Black community?
Well, our big thing, we want to expose the students to all these different areas: sales, be a broker, appraiser, inspector. Okay, but most of our students are going to go beyond that and become developers. They're going to be investors of multiple properties. So we look at it that way also. That's really how we look at it. We want our students to either go to graduate school and get an MBA in it, or a master's degree in something, or get a PhD in it. But for those that, like me, are practical, I'm going to show you how to buy 20 homes in the next 10 years. I'm going to show you how we're going to take those 20 homes and flip them into an apartment complex.
Yeah.
How we're going to buy a shopping center. Those kinds of things is what we're talking about. Most of what we're talking about is how to be a long-term investor. To do what? To create your wealth, right? Get your wealth out of that dollar and put it into real estate.
Right.
Now, I love this concept. I love this concept, and I love the concept that you're offering on a university level. But let's talk about these kinds of concepts and programs. What you're feeling about these kind of concepts and programs in a high school?
Well, I teach this in high schools now.
Okay.
When I'm invited, I go to high schools. I've gone to churches in which I've talked to people, and I talk to them the same way I talk to my students at Morehouse, because it's everybody. Real estate touches everybody, and in some cases, I show them why you do not rent for 20 years, right? And then people say, "Well, I don't have any money to invest in property." How about if I show you how you can buy property without needing any money? Now, you might have to put a little bit of elbow grease in there, but I can show you where you can find some properties where people just are, they want to get rid of that property, and you go in there and you buy that property, how to buy it, and put that elbow grease in it and stay and get started. Once you buy one, the second one's easy. The third one's easier. And before you know it, you're rocking and rolling with 10 of them if you want them. And then we have to show them why they want 10 rental properties, right? You just don't tell them. Show them why. Show the math and show why in a decade or two, your life is going to be so much different, and your children and grandchildren's lives are going to be so much different.
Yeah. Oscar, you're right in my lane now, and we're talking about building legacies.
Mm-hmm.
And you're spot on. We have to teach and show them, and I'm kind of thinking about those listeners out there, whoever, who may not be the collegiate type, may not have that academia in their bloodline. I was one of those. However, I did have the persistence and consistency and determination to achieve those things that you're talking about. So
Right.
For those, we need to have those outlets also, so we can show them how they can create generational wealth, build legacies, not hit a lick with just some flip crap, but be able to build a legacy so that the rental properties and whatever real estate that they invest in will continue to provide cash flow for generations to come. We have to get away from this short-term thinking and start doing long-term planning as it relates to creating wealth. Too often, we hit a lick, and then next thing you know, we back at it. You're broke. You got to continue to do that thing. So there's got to be a way of creating businesses that are scalable, that are profitable, and more importantly, that are legacy driven, so that you don't have to keep inventing the wheel. So with me saying all that, how does the program, and I know we want to kind of like get to the core of this program. We talked a lot about the appraisal. We certainly have opened up some dialogue and some holes where there could be filled with your program there. But what are the end results? A student at Morehouse completes that program. What are the expectations once they complete that program?
Okay. Now, first of all, what the program does is we provide a concentration in real estate. They have a master's, they have a major in finance, but a concentration in real estate. But our program is not just Morehouse, but we also have Spelman and Clark AU students. We're also reaching out and we'll be beginning classes at the Morehouse Medical School, because my father was a doctor, and we talked about this. He said he went to medical school, did all that stuff, but when he came out and opened up his practice, he was an entrepreneur, but never took a business class. Then he started making money. He didn't even know what to do with all that money. Didn't know how to buy real estate. Didn't know anything about it. Nobody never took a class on it. Never did anything. So I always told him that one day that's one thing I want to do. So that's a personal thing for me. But also in the community, that we need to get out there. We're going to have students and alumni and professors reaching out through this institute to the community to talk about these issues. Because even if you didn't go to Morehouse, right? Even if you're not a collegiate, if somebody comes out and talks to you about it in the right way, you pick it up. You'll understand what we're talking about. This is not rocket science. This is just, I think some people need to sit down and someone needs to show them why you have to buy and own real estate, right? Because like you said, I know many people, their whole generations, all their ancestors, all they did was rent. They don't know anything about buying or what it's like to buy. And so we've got people who are first generation who can sit and talk to them about, I remember my grandma lived in the housing projects and my mom lived in the housing projects, but I own 4 or 5 houses myself. And now I see the difference. Now I understand it. Let me show you why. And they can talk to them in a way that's different than maybe I can.
So for our audience, Oscar, how does our audience get in touch with you when they're interested in connecting with your program?
2 ways. One way is you can reach out to me directly. Again, my name is Oscar, Oscar, and then Sistrunk, Sistrunk. But all you have to do is Google my name, and all my information comes up. And you can reach out to me. I tell people I live in the cloud. You can contact me anytime. It doesn't matter. All right. Second of all, you can call Morehouse and say, hey, I'm interested in the Morehouse Real Estate Institute. And they'll plug you over to me. Okay. Or you can now Google probably Morehouse Real Estate Institute, and we should pop up. And there's a YouTube video out there that talks about us and gives you my phone number and all that information. So as our social media expands, you'll be able to find us. And if you want to, you can have any one of us come talk to your organization. We got students who'll come talk to your high school kids about it. I'll come talk to the high school kids. There's other people than just me. There's a group of about 5 of us that are alumni that are in the real estate, not only teaching, but we're in the field doing it every day.
Yeah.
And love to come talk to you about it.
That's excellent. Excellent. Well, look here, man, as always, we're on a time limit with these podcasts, but I tell you, Oscar, you bring so many jewels that we could go on for at least another 30 minutes with more questions. And I'm sure you have more information to share. And without a doubt, we will have you back again. But as we have to start to wrap up here, is there any other parting information that you have that you want to leave with us before we go? And before I say that, I want to pass the mic over to PC just in case he had one more question or what have you, and we'll go toward the goal. PC, you got anything?
Oscar, I have not always been interested in real estate, as I'm sure others have not, including our listening audience. And you really batted home a lot of intrinsic value that we can take and utilize on our own. The connection that you have, the teaching and so forth and so on, I consider a great value, especially when it's applied to our community. So we have to invite you back because I know you got a lot more to say. And with that, Gary, you have any words of wisdom for today, sir?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, baby. I've been waiting on this moment right here. Let me tell y'all something. Never regret a day in your life.
Hello.
Good days give happiness. Bad days give experience. Even your worst days give lessons, and your best days give memories.
Hello.
So look, look, like we like to say on the crotchety old men, if you didn't know,
If you didn't know, now
now
you
you
know.
know. All
Peace
right.
out.
And peace out until we see you next time. Stay safe, stay prayed up, stay with us. We're out.
This is Dr. Paul Clemens with the Crotchety Old Men Podcast. If you're interested in financial tools to build wealth, and you're interested in ways to maximize your health through holistic alternatives, then you are just the audience that we're looking for. Tune in each week, every Thursday, to the Crotchety Old Men Podcast, where George Crumley, Gary Smith, and I offer you in-depth discussions on health and wealth. Subscribe to the Crotchety Old Men Podcast on Google, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your favorite podcast.